Does America have a corporate identity crisis? And I actually didn't really understand what you meant by this, dog. Like, what do you mean? Like, does America have a corporate identity crisis?
Yeah, so kind of what I was thinking is just like I've been watching the news and people react to everything that's going on in the States right now. And so you have corporations silencing a world leader, and you have people making a ton of money off of corporations, individual platforms, and then you have people trying to get people away from those platforms. You even have people running away from the platforms because they're scared of them. And like I remember on CNN right now, I was watching
Platforms losing their web hosting service,
yeah,
like all that. Yeah.
like Parler just being able to disappear overnight. People possibly silencing like forms of thought. If you if I can't remember the guy's name, but if you watch CNN recently, they had some guy on who was like basically saying that podcasters are creating radicalists because they're spreading misinformation, when it's really ironic because people right now distrust mainstream media because it's so confusing and it's so polarized, so they're going to independent creators,
Yep.
and it's actually profitable. And
Yeah, look at
the
Tim
crazy
Pool.
thing
He's
about
blown up so much this year.
yeah, yeah,
I remember
yeah.
watching him
So
when he
I
was at like
mean,
200 to 400,000 subscribers. Now he's at what, over a million now?
and some of
He
those
gets
guys
more
actually
views than
get
CNN.
more. Exactly. Yeah, that's a big deal too. And I think like corporations are kind of scared of that. But at the same time, like America has this like rejection for it. So that's why I think it's in a weird state where we don't know what the hell to do with it. Like we
The
don't want to
old
be
guard,
monitored, but we also want to use it to make money.
the old guard doesn't like anything that like. This is the first
The old
generation.
guard. Oh my gosh.
This is the first generation where the youth actually has, not the first one, but like we're like part of the first generations where the youth is actually can question not even just the uh the thought process behind what the older generations were doing, but their establishments, their there's almost
Younger
like
and younger people are
people.
starting to question the establishment more and
And
more. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, and so like for example, in my mind, the way I see it is like, okay, a building, right? If you see the establishment as a building, I can only control you or try and change your mind or anything like that if you enter the building. But now we have a bunch of people that are just not entering the building at all. And so it's not that the building affected everybody. A lot of people walked through the building and saw bullshit and kept it pushing. You know what I'm saying? But they still needed the chance. They needed to be able to coerce some people going to the building. Now that everybody's going to like Tim Pools and all these independent media sources, they're not going to the building. The old guard is scared that they won't. That was their way of control. That was their way of like, if I'm just not listening to you, like for example, if you're abusive to me verbally and it affects me, and then one day I just stop listening to you, like it just doesn't bother me because I don't value your opinion anymore.
Hmm.
The power is gone from you.
I think the answer is actually a lot simpler, and it goes to what you say all the time about Americans. I think it's just money. I think mainstream media is starting to realize their industry is dying, and these independent sources are starting to take their viewers, arguably, and these journalists, these hosts, are seeing, I would argue, not a job in their future unless they can themselves get their own podcast, and some have done that already.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's her name? I don't know what.
The divisive girl.
Nah, the blonde lady, Megan Kelly.
Okay.
I think that's her. Let me double check real quick. Yes, her. She has her own podcast now.
Okay, that
It's
makes a
just
lot of sense though.
it's just changing it up. It's just the market is changing. So you have
But
these,
why is the market changing? This is the first time
and
the
it goes to,
market
yeah, no,
is
it
changing
goes to what
like
you and
this,
Doc were
though.
saying though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it's like, but it's because of obviously technology, internet, blah blah blah.
That's a factor. Yeah.
But now that we're challenging their establishment, that's why like all these old guys when they're on TV,
Mm-hmm.
it's an apparent disconnect. this was the most disconnected we've ever been from the two people running.
Mm. Yeah.
As in, like, we just don't think any of them are even cool.
Mm-hmm.
Just as simple as that. We don't think any of those guys, presidents, can't really be cool anymore now. Like, that's over. Because as long as you keep hiring people who are 70 years old and all that, it's just not going to happen. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, why do I have to listen to this guy? The stuff that the younger generations value is a lot differently. It's a lot different. So, for example, you may have Cardi B fans listening to her political views, even though it makes no sense, right? Because they view Cardi B as somebody who's cool or somebody who's similar in thinking.
Relatable.
Relatable. There you go. So her political opinion shouldn't be too far off if they're lazy thinkers. Okay, just bear with me, right? Now, why the fuck would I listen to Joe Biden? What does he do for me? He ain't hot. I ain't never seen him wear no Balenciagas. I ain't never seen Joe bag no bitches. I ain't never seen Joe with no Rolex. I ain't never seen Joe do anything that I value. I ain't never seen Joe bust no real dance moves. I ain't never seen Joe crack no real joke. I ain't never seen Joe has never done at me as I'm talking has never done anything I would deem as cool or entertaining or interesting, other than I guess politically. If you take politics out of it, just Joe himself. They're not interesting. There's no appeal behind fucking Joe. There's appeal behind Cardi B. She shake that ass. She dropped hit records. And now our generation was like, okay, cool. We're not stuck under your trends. What do I value about you, Bill O'Reilly? The fuck I'm listening to this dude for? And then we grow up walking in the crib, watching our parents watch that shit, and be like, oh, fuck these guys. I'm finna go upstairs. Oh, they turning the news on again. I'm finna go upstairs. I just want to watch cartoons. I just want to watch this. So we've been dodging them my whole life. And then we get older and find out these motherfuckers are actually crazy. Man, fuck those guys. I'm going to listen to Tim Pool. I'm going to listen to Joe Rogan. I'm going to listen to people who took their time out, people who I feel took their time out to go and try and find out as much of the truth as they independently could have. And just hear them talk to me like I'm a regular person.
Yeah, because I watch Tim Pool, and the reason why I appreciate Tim Pool is because I like his actual podcast. I appreciate his actual videos he does on the political news. But what I appreciate is the people he brings on to talk about the stuff. Like, he actually does his best to bring on like progressive leftist side thinking people, and those are insightful discussions that they have. So, obviously, there's some heated, back and forth, but at the end of the day, it's actually bringing the discussion to the forefront, which is where it needs to be. And I think the conversations are constructive, even if there are disagreements. At least we're having a little more of an understanding of where we agree and where we disagree, and hopefully by finally having these discussions, we can progress, move forward, heal, unify like we all want.
So to answer your question, then, Doc, I wouldn't label it an identity crisis. I would label America having identity crisis. So,
Okay.
The corporations are having to pivot because they're all reactionary. It's not based off their own anything. They actually have to follow what we do, and so it's like when they say like let's say talk about rap music. When they say, oh, if you stop buying music or purchasing music about guns and stuff like that, we'll stop making the music about guns and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So it's like we actually just stopped caring about one thing.
Vote with your dollar kind of thing.
Yeah, and so we just stopped caring about one thing and pivoted, and they just couldn't keep our attention. So they're literally having to go from whatever's in our periphery and run to whatever we're looking at just to try and capitalize off of it. And now we're understanding now, and this is what's really cool about independent platforms, the pivot has allowed space for the independent creators to rise to a certain level where it's a partnership if the corporations want to work with them. So they have to present something mutually beneficial. It can't just be necessarily money all the time, because a lot of these independent creators now you're reaching out to them because they've reached a certain level. There's no money you can offer Tim. I mean, obviously there is a dollar per month, but there's really no realistic amount of money that you could offer Tim to just have him lie on his podcast and just sell himself short of everything he's done. So anything
Well,
you do, you has to pair off and be respectful of his wishes on his podcast. Whereas if he didn't have that foundational piece before, his fan base, which being that piece he already has, you're trying to bleach off my fan base. I don't need you for that. You do what I say now. And so all the contracts are even different.
well, it's interesting you say that, because one thing that I've been kind of noticing is that right now, like, people are, I don't know if it's just because of the pandemic, or maybe it's just like the particular like media that I'm consuming and stuff like that. People to me seem to be garnering clout as the most valuable currency
It
within the
is.
country. Because as soon as you garner clout and have enough of it, the corporation will bend the knee to you to cater to you, like Joe Rogan and stuff like that. And honestly, Trump is a byproduct of that. Like, Trump garnered enough clout that he was able to bend the entire government system to him, and he was able to kind of go through the entire process of governing the country with it. Like, especially now too, after the whole Capitol thing, um, you start to see the Republicans that really weren't for him start to like drop him and stuff like that, because the clout has changed and completely different. And also the big thing too is that we're actually noticing this is one of the first times that corporations are pushing back. This is the first time. Normally, the corporations bend the knee to you, and they're just like, "Yeah, man, whatever you want to do, we'll host your show. We just want the money that you're gonna bring us from your
Mm-hmm.
following." But this is the first time where the corporations were like, "No,
You know what?
we're
To
done."
what you're saying, we're gonna take off one of our topics, and there's gonna be a subtopic to this. So IG did an adult content purge, and they took out basically anybody who had violated a certain number of their rules and guidelines, even if it wasn't recently. They went and purged a lot of people. So you have a lot of content creators who what you're talking about is quantifiable clout, right? That was the quantifiable clout was their IG. And so to what he's saying, the corporations are pushing back and stuff now because they understand now that they literally either have to control the creation of the content creators. So if I have an IG, right, with 1 million followers off of singing, no, off of, I was an athlete, okay? I now have 1 million people who I can sell anything to, correct? So if any corporation wants to sell anything or promote anything, they have to pay me to post it on my Instagram. Simple enough.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But now let's say I create an OnlyFans. I won't get 1 million people following me. Let's say 5% follow me. Right? That's a lot of money. Not only do I do an OnlyFans, let's say I start selling candles. Let's start selling this. Let's say I start selling that. There are so many revenue sources you can make off of the almost stacking of clout that is the thing that you need to get. So corporations understanding that the clout is more important than the dollar right now because the clout actually lasts longer are pushing back on what they think will get them the most clout. We've turned corporations into clout chasers.
That's interesting.
No, it's true. And we, to police ourselves, have created cancel culture
Mm-hmm.
to get
The
rid of that
clout
clout.
police.
Yeah.
Whew. Jesus, I ain't gonna lie. I think we just I think we just did a thing. I ain't gonna cap. No bet.
Yeah. I think moving forward, we'll continue to chase clout and try to generate income off of it, but I think corporations are going to be a lot stricter.
Yep.
I think, especially since people are like, "Well, how come you're not consistent in your rules?" And how come Trump is? What are you going to do this for corporate leaders? I think the way you were mentioning earlier that corporations are reactionary, I think they're going to stop being reactionary. Especially the fact that they just watched a world leader, whether it was advertent or inadvertent, he triggered a coup attempt within a country, within their own country, and I think that's why they're just like, no, we're going to stop being reactionary because we reacted to that and that ended up happening. Or if we had been proactive, that might not have happened, and I think that's where we're going with them.
Man, I just think it's unfair to call it a coup attempt, honestly.
What was their goal? No, I'm
There
asking
wasn't.
you.
It was just
Exactly,
they
there
were just
wasn't.
riled.
Exactly. So that's why I think it's unfair to call it a coup attempt. Sure, you could argue some in there, like we said last podcast, the guy with the
Loaded gun.
well, some, yeah, but I'm talking about the guy with the zip ties. Like, obviously, some had ill intent, but that wasn't the full motivation of the entire movement. Just because of a very small few were fucking idiots.
You know what's so fucking ironic about this shit,
No,
dog?
it's all
It's all fucking ironic,
it
dog.
is. It
Because
really
I'm
is.
Yeah.
literally hearing what people were saying about Black Lives
Yes,
Matter
exactly.
right
Yeah, it's
now.
exactly the same
Exactly.
thing. It's
It's
just the
so
opposite end.
Exactly.
fucking wild. It's so fucking wild. And then it's crazy because right now, if I were a person who were really pro Black Lives Matter, the movement, and I guess not educated on the nuances of everything that's going on, I could look at Gene or any not even to specify Gene. Sorry, I didn't mean to specify you, but
Nah, go
you
for
know,
it.
no, just because you were defending not defending the point, but just saying it wasn't a coup, or like I could look at them and say, all y'all did was say looting and rioting, and immediately end any possible progressive conversation we could have.
Yeah, I think Gene hit a point last time where he
There's like
said
no
that
empathy.
the radicals in the pro-Trump group and the radicals in BLM are literally the same people. They're just different sides of the fence, and they're
They're
like
the
their own
same
group.
person. Yeah,
Yeah, they're the same person.
they're the same person.
That's why I made a point last episode, just saying that, like, I just want to have, I guess, hash out the same topic pretty much. But just it's unfortunate now that we have both these extremes, and now we have to find a way to deal with these extremes. I guess it's just
But
annoying
what
that
birthed these extremes is a good question.
That is a good question.
a lot of it, I think people. So I'll start where I think it began, which was during my dad's maybe generation and growing up. Because I remember growing up, him always complaining how specifically the rhinos, how they just weren't. They were too passive. They always, like the typical term, they just bend over all the time. They bend the knee. They just take it. Like they weren't really. They didn't fight for their values, or as my dad would say, like conservative Republican values.
Mm-hmm.
And then so that was just a frustrating thing, blah blah blah. But nothing really was. I mean, I want to say nothing really bad was really happening that made this trigger, but it was building and building until obviously the straw that broke the camel's back happened in 2016 when Trump won.
Okay.
And I guess that's when people feel like, wow, if this guy can actually be president, maybe it's not as corrupt. I've heard that sentiment before
I'll
because
say it began.
it seemed impossible that Trump was able to win.
I'll say, I think it began under Obama.
When
the media started, when the media showed or highlighted, I don't want to, focused would be the better word, on the racist antics towards Obama. I think there was the media used, when Obama ran, the media used the
so you think
fact
that was the start of it all?
I think that was the real start of it all because.
Well, I was thinking what built up to the point where what finally.
Because you said 2016, but I'm talking about before that.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I'm agreeing with you. Like that's one of the triggers. But I think the way the media used Obama, and it's not even him during the presidency, the run when he was going for president.
Yeah.
They made it a real divisive time by what they chose to cover and how they chose to cover it.
Mm.
And so I think you knock 5 people off here, 5 people off here, and certain things happen. 5 people off here, 5 people off here. Now that's 10, and people just kept falling off to the extreme side till enough gathered, I guess, to unify and become actual organizations. But like I think that was the beginning because the thing, we don't care about religion anymore. Why? Why are we not fighting about religion no more? That shit not even cool.
What do you mean?
We've been fighting about religion for thousands of years. That's been the main point of discourse. Religion.
Well, I also remember even during like Bush's thing, a lot of like the Middle Eastern scare in the country was still based on religion.
We don't
it's
care
still-
about that shit no more.
Oh, as American.
Yeah, now it's just
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
race.
just
okay.
race.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and to John's point too, I
I was about to say
remember
there are
when
fighting over
Obama was
religion,
running.
but it's just I get it. Not here. I understand what you're saying.
I remember when Obama was running, he was kind of painted as the manifestation of Martin Luther King's dream.
Mm.
And I mean, honestly, that's why I got into it too. When I saw him like win, I was just like, holy crap, like I'm watching like, what I've
History.
learned in the history books manifesting itself finally. And that's how it was marketed. But afterwards,
So if you're
they never
against that, how do you
stopped.
look?
Yeah. But afterwards, they never stopped knocking on the Republican Party. I remember that because I remember almost like all of Jon Stewart, all of everything else was just like, look at these racists, look at these
Yep.
idiots, look at
Yep.
how like idiotic the South is, and so it does make sense that eventually the Southerners were like, dude, like stop, we're
I
tired of
completely
that. Like
agree.
Yeah,
that's not actually who we are. Like
But what does that?
just yeah. That's
I have a
that's what I
question.
was
What does
saying.
that
Is for
say?
my dad. My dad got annoyed that when they would get throw these accusations and these officials wouldn't like defend themselves because when they would defend themselves, then suddenly like that's affirming now what their accusations. Like no, like you just
But
I don't know.
what does that say to the American psyche that, regardless of how you look at it, a black president, we couldn't technically handle the reverberations of it. Like just naturally, just congratulations, black guy did it, and move on. Like socially, we couldn't handle even the media manipulation. Literally, we couldn't even handle that. And I know it sounds bad to say like, oh, like it's not. I'm not trying to minimize the media's involvement, but I'm saying like we're supposed to be adults. If I can see it, I feel like most people can see media manipulation or propaganda. So what does that say about the like average American that we were so easily swayed into such a racial, like they took us from religion to race so smooth. So smooth. And this is where like if you want to get into conspiracy theories, fuck QAnon and fuck drinking blood and all that shit.
What?
What if you like they think that politicians are drinking babies' children's blood
Oh
and all
my,
that shit? What if
that's fucking weird.
what if the actual conspiracy is just affect what we fight about? And they knew just knowing ebb and flow. We put this black guy in office, bro. Even if Obama's in on it, we put these black guy in office, bro. They're gonna crack about next issue. This religious thing is wearing dry. Let's goddamn throw some goddamn black in there. See what happened. And now we have more confusion. Another 50 years of confusion coming by so they can control or continue doing whatever the fuck they're doing. But it just makes sense to me. We couldn't handle it.
I feel like
I'll try to spin that on a positive way. I do agree that we do have a lot more confusion. We're definitely in that point. I think that through COVID though, race has been thrown at the front. And like me personally, I think the core pillar of the country, or two core pillars of the country, are money and race at this point. And I think now we've come to see like race is a big deal, and it's something that if our country is going to move forward and stay intact, we have to tackle head on. It's really dirty right now and it's really messy, and I don't know how we're going to do it, but I think it's something that we need to address. I don't think cancel culture is the right way.
Mm-mm.
I also don't think just stepping on each other's toes is the right way. I mean, if I had the answer, I'd be spitting it out. It's just like we're just gonna have to move forward through it and be like, cool. We're just gonna have to aim for unity and go.
And honestly speaking, this is gonna sound simple. I'm trying to simplify things, but if my granddad did something to your granddad and you was yelling at me about it, I'd have a tough time accepting any type of responsibility for it. I'm being dead ass honest with you. I just wouldn't. Like, yeah, dude, I'm sorry.
my granddad was an asshole.
He was a fucking asshole, but I didn't do that to you. Maybe my granddad stole a couple grand from you, right? And now we're all doing okay. I'm sorry. But I didn't steal the money. So like it's just tough. Like I agree with him. It's a conversation, honestly speaking. It's if all this shit just never happened, it'd be so interesting to see.
What shit never happened?
Like slavery and just like not just slavery,
The
but
evils
just,
of the world?
Yeah, if they never happened, because we're at a point now where we could actually benefit off of those things never happening. We right now, if those things never happened, could be the closest we've ever been to a utopian society. Whereas everybody interacting, low crime, low this, low that. If those things just never happened.
So
If Earth just everybody stayed in their countries and developed at their rate, pace, and finally came together when everybody was more civilized and not imperialistic in any type of nature, it'd be interesting to see where the world was. If we all were just cooperating for the past 100 years.
Yo, so thanks for watching a clip of FDT. If you like what you heard, be sure to subscribe, like the clip, leave a comment, and check out our page for more content. Tune into full episodes of FDT released every Friday on Podbean, iTunes, and Spotify. Peace.